year of the winning streak. And so I'm going to reference page number so you can follow along if you want to. So the first year of the winning streak was the 1967-68 season. And I'm going to be reading from page 12 in your book if you want to follow along. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can.
There's going to be a test, though.
There will be a test at the end. So in this season, my mother was actually not a member of the team yet. She was only in 8th grade. But Coach Carter asked her to take part in spring practice, which was a really big deal. But she had kind of an embarrassing moment. The last day of spring practice, Coach Carter was working with me on pivoting to shoot the ball under the goal. And for some reason, he asked me what size my shoe was. I guess he had looked down at my feet and seen my embarrassingly huge Converse All-Star high tops. I answered as softly as I could, 10. He stopped his work with me, called for Sissy to come over from the other end of the court, and said, "Guess what size shoe Bunny Fuller wears? Size 10. I could feel my face turn as red as my hair, but Sissy grinned to show that she was used to the ribbing and said, "Don't worry, I do too." Judy walked by about that time, heading to the locker room, and laughed at us both. Sissy said later in a description of our early friendship, "I was glad for Bunny to join the team for lots of reasons, most especially to have someone else share my shoe size." I always said it took a lot to knock us over. The four forwards, Sissy, Judy, Sandra, and me, spent a lot of time together, and Sandra joked, "You all were so tall I had to trot to keep up with you." I think it was Judy who gave the nickname Shrimp to Sandra, and it stuck with her to this day. And of course, I think all those stars are here. Judy and Sandra, they were here anyway. They're around here somewhere. There's Judy. All right. If you flip to page 14, you'll see a picture. It's a great picture of Sissy Riley and Sue Lawhorn, and it's got Coach Carter in the background carrying the balls. He was mistaken for the ball boy at one point. And then there's also a picture of the gym right below that. And so the next section I'm going to read is from season 2, and it's a description of the gym. It's on page 21, the next section that I'm going to read. And it's got a description of the gym, and it's also got a funny story about the manager and the junior manager, which is Miss Joyce and Miss Melody. There's Miss Joyce. There's Miss Melody back there in the back. So I'm reading from page 21. There are so many memories from that old gym in Butler. I remember the exact spot my parents sat. Looking back, I wonder if I ever told them enough that I appreciated them coming to every game. Both would be tired from a full day of working, Mama teaching elementary school and Daddy driving the Gulf Oil gas truck. They'd get home, eat a quick supper, and Daddy would have to feed up the livestock before we headed to the game. After getting me to the gym early, they'd settle in their favorite spot and wait for the game to start. The gym included a stage since it doubled as an auditorium, and on the stage side there was very little room between the basketball court and the bottom of the elevated stage. A single row of chairs could fit there for a row of fans, and that's where a lot of the parents chose to sit. Mama and Daddy sat there every home game because it was more comfortable to sit in a chair than on the backless bleachers. Daddy would enjoy the games immensely, and especially liked watching the boys coach Sandy Harris, my future brother-in-law. Sandy was a fiery and emotional coach, very exciting to watch. He would sometimes get mad at the referees, and many times by night's end, he would have kicked the chair against the wall until it folded up and crashed against the gym floor. Daddy particularly loved that move, and he'd laugh and talk about it when we got home. Mama was a different story. She'd loyally support the teams, but she never could follow the game. She'd often be daydreaming about other things during the game, and I'd see her lost in thought when I glanced her way. I'd tease her mercilessly, asking, "Mama, can't you at least watch the end of the court where the action is, even if you don't know what's going on?" We joked about her not paying attention to the game my entire basketball career. Basketball teams also include many additional positions such as the managers, statisticians, and the cheerleaders. This year, managers Joyce Kendrick and Melody Bowler were assigned a room in the gym for their equipment, and Joyce made a sign for the door labeled Manger Room. Coach Carter has never let her forget that spelling mistake. As Melody Bowler illustrates, the managers had the same respect bordering on fear of Coach Carter as the players did. And this is a quote from Miss Melody. "One of my biggest tests came very soon after I was hired. At that time, Coach Carter drove a light blue Ford Falcon. It had a manual transmission with the stick on the steering column. When Coach Carter asked me if I could drive a straight shift, I told him I could, but I really couldn't. I was afraid I'd get fired, so I quickly got a friend to show me how to change the gears in her father's pickup truck. Soon, one afternoon, Coach Carter asked me to drive to the drugstore and get vitamins for the players. Changing the gears wasn't the hard part. The hard part was synchronizing the clutch with the gas. This skill comes with experience, of which I had very little. To begin with, the car choked down a lot when starting and stopping. I learned to pop the clutch, which worked, but did not provide a very smooth ride. Needless to say, Joyce and I had some memorable trips to town." And also during that 1968-69 season, Coach Carter had a very unusual experience at the state tournament. And I'm going to read from page 25 about that experience. "The games of the first round of the 1969 state tournament were held at various locations around the state. Coach Carter, being superintendent as well as coach, was a very busy man. Our first game was held in Talbotton at the Talbot County High School gym against Toombs Central. We were right in the middle of the second quarter of a pretty tight game when the most unusual thing happened. A little man came running over to the Taylor County bench with a worried look on his face, got right in front of Coach where he couldn't even see the game, and as Coach motioned for him to move, he said, 'Are you Norman Carter? You have an emergency phone call in the office.' Long distance calls were pretty rare in 1969, and hearing the word emergency had to have been very scary for Coach. He called timeout and asked the nearest official if he could leave the court to take an emergency phone call, and then hurried to the office in the gym. When he answered the phone, he heard the principal of Reynolds Elementary. 'This is Harold Helms, Mr. Carter. What temperature do you want the thermostat on tonight at elementary school? 68 or 72?
Actual fact.
Next, I'm going to read a section from page 40 about the Tri-County tournament during the 1969-70 season. In 1970, both the boys and girls teams were expected to make a good showing at the Tri-County tournament in Manchester, and we did, with both teams winning the championship. All three forwards made the all-tournament team, and we were so proud. Buddy Dunn wrote in the Taylor County News, "The trio of forwards, Bunny Fuller, Judy Riley, and Sandra Arnold, scored 201 points during the tournament. Fuller hit the nets for 100 points, Riley scored 53, and Arnold added 48. They were at their best just as they had been all year. Also, two guards, Denise and Patsy, made all-tourney, making 5 for the Lady Vikings." Dunn's article quotes the Manchester Star-Mercury newspaper as questioning, "Why are schools outside the Tri-County area in the Tri-County basketball tournament?" This questioning was probably because Manchester didn't like to see their top trophies go to the same school in both boys and girls divisions. After the trophy presentation, a fan from another school came up to me and said, "You made me lose $5. He said he'd bet we'd defeat our opponent by 25 points. We beat them by 24, and I had missed a free throw in the final seconds of the game, which caused him to lose his bet." After the championship game, a reporter from the WTBM News in Columbus said he wanted to take footage of our team celebrating in the locker room. We didn't have any kind of locker room celebration normally, so we didn't know exactly what to do, but Coach Carter playfully threw a towel over Judy Riley's head. Our real celebration was driving all the way to Shoney's in Columbus for supper, a big treat. We didn't get home in time to see what the news aired, and I've always wondered if WTBM showed the footage of Judy with the towel over her head. All right, during the fourth season, 1970 to 71, integration occurred, and the Lady Vikings gained players from McDougal High School. I'm going to read a section from page 57. Looking back, I believe our basketball team was vital to the successful adjustment to integration in Taylor County schools. The basketball players and fans wanted the new situation to work because we wanted to continue to have good teams. So we made friends and made it work. I know that changing schools and becoming part of an established team was difficult for the girls from Dodrill High School. Many years later, in a speech at our Lady Vikings reunion, Coach Carter said, "In 1970 to 71, I saw the greatest examples of profiles in courage I saw in my entire coaching career. We integrated. A lot of people didn't like it. Shirley Durham, Mary Riley, Mary Grover, and Arlene Flowers had to come to us to continue their basketball careers. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't know me. They didn't know the girls on the team. They came over there, fit in, helped us to continue the streak, and I have nothing but admiration and respect. Our girls welcomed them with open arms. We came together as a team, and we continued the streak." And we've got some of those girls here today from that team, right? And then I'm also going to read a section from page 61 about the fourth season. And keep in mind that the seniors in 1971 had never played, they never played during a losing game during their entire Lady Vikings career. From 9th grade through 12th grade, those seniors never played during a losing game. We were shaping up to be a good team with plenty of substitutes at every position. Senior standouts included our wonderful guard, Patsy Renow, who would fit the Rover rule easily, as well as Regina Parks and Diane Kendrick, who had always been designated guards. Underclassmen included Jean Jones, Kathy Underwood, Carlynn Neisler, Edie Smith, Carol Dyer, Faye Hayes, Cecilia Kendrick, and freshmen Harriet Jones and Susan Whidden. Through all the changes we faced this year, Coach Carter's methods remained the same. He could always make each team member feel special and important. He'd watch for standouts at practice, praise anything good, and teach the skills we needed to learn. A big part of his motivation was through fear. While we loved Coach Carter, we were also just plain scared of him. Thinking back, it's hard to remember Coach Carter's actually punishing anyone, but we all wanted to avoid disappointing him. Harriet Jones wrote, "The power of the fear factor keeps bubbling up for me. As a freshman, I was totally intimidated by the whole team and just worked hard to keep up. The fear of having Coach Carter address me individually kept me completely motivated. Once we were working on a drill on how to drive from the side of the foul line by stretching that first step. Patsy Renow, a senior that year who was quick as a cat and tough as nails, was the guard that we had to drive around. The fear factor was truly working for me that day. Coach Carter said to drive around her, so I did, to the surprise of everyone, including myself. Coach Carter gave me a funny look and told me to do it again. Somehow I was successful again. He then asked me if my game uniform was so heavy that it was slowing me down in games. Of course, I didn't realize the sarcasm. I just knew that I was too afraid not to do what he told me to do. You can call it fear or respect, but I know at times it allowed me to do the impossible." And so finally we come to the last season of the winning streak, the 1971-72 season. This was the chapter that Mama and I cried every time we worked on, because of course this was the year that the winning streak ended. I'm not going to read about the game that they lost. I'm going to read from page 87 about a game against Perry that the Lady Vikings won. And the section also has a description of Coach Carter that I think everybody will be interested in. Perry came to Butler on December 10th without having lost a game yet this season, and their defense was awesome that night. I wrote in my scrapbook, worst game I've ever played. Lousy defense, lousy zone press, and especially lousy offense. I only scored 10 points, and I put in parentheses that I'd played better against Perry in 9th grade, when I'd scored 11 and 13 points. Fortunately, Sandra played an excellent game and scored 26 points, with Shirley scoring 14 points. Kathy Underwood was getting the starting position a lot this year, and she played some great defense, along with seniors Mary Grover and Arlene Flowers. Another junior, Edie Smith, saw action at the forward substitute position and fit right in. The picture in the Perry newspaper shows a huge amount of people in the stands. from babies to senior citizens. Perry's coach, Bob Morrow, is quoted, "I'm still not convinced Taylor County has a better team than we do. I was glad to hear the final buzzer on this game, with us ahead 56-51. After this Perry game, our 130th consecutive victory, a news article came out describing Coach Carter as young, handsome, and fashionable." And it's a quote from the paper. "For the game with Perry, he was resplendent in maroon bell-bottoms, a colorful shirt, and the appropriate tie. From a distance, Carter looks much like a high school senior whose classmates voted him their best dressed award." "We were proud to have such a young, good-looking coach, and it's amazing to think that Coach Carter was not even 40 during our winning streak." The article also describes Coach Carter's actions during the game, from smiling when one of us made a good shot, to staring at the floor when an opponent stole the ball, to nervously playing with a towel during anxious moments. Since we players never watched Coach Carter during a game, the article's description was interesting. The article concludes by questioning how long the winning streak would continue. Hometown fans say forever. They say if the Butler girls can't outplay another team, they will simply outclass them. Perhaps they are right, but some of the followers of girls basketball say the end is in sight. They say it will come on the oak boards of Perry or Warner Robins, and maybe at both places. And of course we know that the winning streak did end, but the Lady Vikings' success didn't, as they continued to and went on to win the state tournament that year. There are many great stories in the book, and I hope that all of y'all enjoy reading it as much as Mama and I enjoyed writing it. Thank you all for coming.
Good job, Kate.